Okay, what's up, everybody? We are here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I'm here with John Rodriguez. John, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Rahul?
How are those taxes going for you?
No, just lovely.
That's great.
Yeah, keep me busy.
And of course, Kurt, Radio Face Russell. Kurt, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, I got a pretty clever joke for you. Um,
Okay.
it's, it might take you a couple seconds to digest it and think about it.
Okay.
So if you don't get it right away, don't feel bad.
Okay, fair
All
enough.
right, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
So what do you call a fake noodle?
What?
An impasta. So that's how my day's going.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like a great day. Wow.
Yeah, it
Now,
is. It is.
now I gotta eat some pasta tonight or something. Good. Nice. So what else is going on? Apparently
Well,
not much.
I was pretty excited to watch the Cavs play the Knicks today because I figured it would be on ABC, and then when I woke up, I found there was just some sort of cruel joke played on me.
Oh,
So I guess I'll have to wait till Thursday when we play the Warriors on TNT.
that'll be a great game. But maybe this is actually a blessing in disguise because this game could get ugly pretty soon.
Oh, you think the Cavs are gonna lose?
I mean, think about it. The Knicks have a solid starting five that includes Langston Galloway and Lou Amundsen, who we saw up close how good he was. And then they got Alexei Shved now, so like he's a solid backup point guard. And then you can't forget about guys like Cole Aldridge. So yeah, it could be a tough game for LeBron and company.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Louis claimed his revenge on the Cavs for trading him, so he's probably gonna light it up. I'm expecting him to put up about 5 points and 4 rebounds. So
Yeah,
that'll be tough to overcome.
and well, if you extend that to a 36 like per 36-minute average, that's like at least 6 points and 5 rebounds,
Oh, that's true.
right? So
Yeah, yeah,
it's gonna be a tough one.
that's efficient.
I'm gonna laugh when the Cavs actually lose today.
Yeah, well, that would be bad. Vegas has us listed as 16.5 point favorites in New York, which is
Wow.
um, pretty much unheard of. It'd be one thing if we were at home, I guess, but that's just that basically means that they have absolutely no respect for the Knicks at all. So,
Yeah. Well, I think part of that is also the Cavs played. Was it Friday? They played Friday against the Wizards,
yeah,
and they crushed them. Did you guys get a chance to watch any of that game? I know
yes,
Kurt.
sir.
That was on national TV, right? So
Yes, I did watch. Um, yeah, that was a pretty awesome game to watch. You could tell just in the first quarter that not only did the Wizards come out pretty slow, but the Cavs were just on fire. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it was impressive to watch. You could tell very early that the game was over and the Cavs were going to win. Anytime that Dellavedova and James Jones and Mike Miller are all on the floor at the same time, you kind of know the game's over.
or on
And
the line.
yeah, yeah, we were blessed to watch Brendan Haywood trot out there for 6 minutes and not do a whole lot besides not be able to catch the ball. So yeah, it was an absolute slaughter and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think in the first half, like LeBron and Kyrie combined for 33 points, which is
Yeah.
pretty solid. It's like they didn't even feel the All-Star break. It's like they didn't miss a beat, and that's great to see. It's a reflection of good leadership, I think.
Yeah.
But J-Rod, did you catch that game?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, me and you were out on the town doing some bowling
Oh, that's right. That's
with
right.
fellow Semih Pro staff, Brian Deacon as well, and our buddy Zug. But Deacon had some great string of games. He failed to break 100 four straight games. So impressive.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you guys try to get him the bumpers up, or?
He
We were
would,
thinking about it.
yeah.
Or there's some little kids playing next to us. I think we suggested we go join them.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
But no, yeah, we caught parts of this game, I guess, here and there, kind of like the end of it when we were already had it won. But yeah, just some notable things, I guess. We held the Wizards to 1 of 16 from three, so that's good to see. Our defense really playing well. Either that or Washington just laying a steamer.
Steamer.
Um, and it seems like if you look at the Cavs and the Wizards, they're kind of going in opposite directions. It seems. The Cavs,
Hmm.
when they last played the Wizards, we had a losing record, and yeah, the first like 20, 25 games we were doing terrible, and the Wizards were off to a great start. They were 19-6, and since then, the Cavs they won now 15 of 17,
Mm-hmm.
and the Wizards are 14 and 16 in their last 30 games. So
Ooh.
Wow.
it seems, yeah, like the Cavs are trending upward, and the Wizards are kind of struggling. They'll probably like limp their way in the playoffs. It seems they might, you know, drop down, or the Bucks might, get ahead of them, or they're just having a few injuries, I guess, with Bradley Beal and a few others. But yeah, the Wizards aren't really playing too well so far in the last few games. So yeah, I mean, overall, it was good to see Cavs, and LeBron was highly efficient. I think he was plus 30 when he was on the floor, and we shot like 62% with him on the floor too. So
Wow.
it's clear that LeBron in the second half he'll make his claim, I think, for like an MVP candidate if we string off some wins and continue to be successful. So yeah, I guess looking ahead quickly, I guess we already touched upon the Knicks game coming up in, I guess, next like 20 minutes or so. But I guess in the next week or so of games, I guess we could preview a little bit, just give our predictions of how they'll go. I guess Tuesday we have a game at Detroit, and then Thursday, as we mentioned, a big game versus Golden State on TNT. And then we finish up the week Friday at Indiana. So I guess, Kurt, looking at these four games, what do you expect? Especially looking at, I guess, that Golden State game. What do you see with that?
Yeah, well, if we lose today, that would be pretty upsetting. It's not it's not the second I have a back-to-back, so there's really no excuse to lose that one. But I think, yeah, we should take care of business against the Knicks. The Pistons actually made a big upgrade getting Reggie Jackson, considering that Jennings went down. So that'll probably be a tougher game than people would expect, but I still think we'll win that. The Golden State game, man, that's going to be, I can't wait to watch that. That's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's at home, which is good. I I don't know. I think we can win, but that's just going to be, that seems like a total toss-up to me. And then at Indiana, I'd expect us to win. So I think I'll say we'll go 3-1 over the four-game stretch.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with you. My reasonings for 3-1 though is a little bit different. Um, so I think the last two like big national TV games we had were like OKC, and then Miami was kind of like a high pressure game, so I consider that like a big game. And the Cavs came out to play pretty well for both those games. So it seems like we're figuring out how to play on national TV now in high pressure situations. So I look for the Cavs to really come out firing against Golden State. I think with that trap game that we kind of had the same thing like a few weeks ago where we lost to the Pacers after a tough game. So I think that game at Indiana is going to be another tough game for us. So I think it's a losable game, to be honest. So I would also go with 3-1 for that reason. J-Rod?
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you guys that the approach of 3-1 for these next four. Golden State will certainly be a big test, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of pace we play with that game. I think our offense is clicking as enough to keep pace with them and their high-powered offense and everything, but it seems it'll be interesting to see how the reserves and the bench kind of contributes and plays against their bench because it's two teams that are pretty evenly matched in terms of matchups and everything. You know, you have stars on both teams and then solid bench players off the bench that can contribute as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then obviously, yeah, that Indiana game will be tough, especially at Indiana. And you look at the last game we played against them, and we lost that one. So it's always tough going to Indiana and their defense, and they just cause problems for us. So yeah, I see it as 3-1, I guess. I guess rolling into this week, recent news, the Cavs were pretty quiet on the trade deadline talks and everything. You didn't really hear anything about potential trades. Before, I guess we heard about, possibly acquiring a backup point guard, or there's some rumblings of like a big man, and I guess that didn't come true until this past, I guess yesterday was officially Kendrick Perkins has agreed to join the Cavaliers. So I know in the past
Kendra.
we've kind of ratted on Kendra as not our favorite player of the podcast, but Rahul, what do you see Perkins bringing to the Cavs, and do you think this was a good pickup for us?
Well, Kendra is a very skilled player, so I see him knocking down a couple threes for us. Maybe running the fast break or something. uh, well, I mean, obviously he's tough and he's got experience. Um, so I mean that's always useful, especially for a team like the Cavs that look to make a deep playoff push with such a young and inexperienced team. He's kind of the guy where like almost like an enforcer where you can tell him to set a hard pick on someone and he'll go do that kind of dirty work stuff. And then I also think like you got to ask yourself like, well, what if Tristan Thompson or Kevin Love got hurt? Um, you need some depth back there, and Kendrick Perkins. I would feel a lot more comfortable with Kendrick Perkins than like Brendan Haywood. So, and I don't think you can really go small against those big teams in the East come playoff time. So I think Kendrick's not going to play too much, but he will be a solid addition. So, Kurt, what do you think about Kendra? I know he's your favorite player. So,
Yeah, I like Johnny said, as much as we like to rat on him, he's a guy that if he's on the team you're playing against, you absolutely hate him because he's kind of dirty and just he's a guy who's going to stand up for his teammates. Which if he's on your team, that's why like from what we hear, he's like an amazing locker room guy. Everybody loves him because they know like he'll do anything for his teammates. Which on the other hand, also probably means that if he's only known or mainly known for being a locker room guy, that he doesn't really do a whole lot on the basketball court. But he adds a lot of size, which is good when you consider, Chicago has Pau and Noah,
yeah,
and the Wizards have Nene and Gortat. He can guard Noah and a Gortat just because they're not terribly athletic. Against Atlanta, I don't think he'd have much of a shot against Horford. Horford's a little too athletic for him probably, but he can bang down low.
with Millsap
And
maybe.
yeah. He's a huge upgrade over Brendan Haywood, who looked completely lost against the Wizards in his several minutes of garbage time. So it's definitely, and I think maybe even more importantly, it's good that I know the teams that it narrowed down to for him were the Clippers to reunite with Doc and the Cavs, but it's good that somebody else in our conference that we had to face didn't get him too, because that's just a guy that you don't want to play against. So
Yeah.
So speaking of guys that you don't want to play against, unfortunately, we won't be able to play against him, but it's also probably fortunate. Chris Bosch is out for the rest of the season. He's having some blood clotting issues in his lungs, I believe.
Yeah.
So, which is,
Yeah.
best of luck to him. I know I'm not personally a huge fan of him on the basketball court, just from, the Heat Cavs matchup type deal. But in all seriousness, hope he's okay and all that stuff. So, without him, Rahul, what does that mean for the Heat? Can they still make the playoffs? And if so, what seed do you see them getting?
Well, it's going to be tough now. Like, they got Goran Dragic recently, and Zoran Dragic, actually. They're sitting at the 7th seed right now, but the next 4 teams are within 1.5 games of them, and even Boston's only 2 games out, actually. So there's 5 teams within 2 games. And if you look at the teams below them, I'd say Charlotte's a pretty skilled team, pretty talented team that's going to jump ahead of Brooklyn. And then Detroit just made that trade for Reggie Jackson. So they should get better. And then Indiana is playing decently well, and they should get Paul George back too. So I don't see it as good news for Miami. And plus, we know how Dwayne Wade kind of operates. He plays a stretch of games, then he kind of sits. And now when he sits, who's gonna lead that team without Chris Bosh, right? So I would say that their chances of making the playoffs are about 25 or 30%. What do you guys think? I know that's probably on the low side, but what do you think, J-Rod?
Yeah, I think I think it is on the low side. Yeah, it's a tough loss for the Heat, especially after the acquisition of Goran Dragic. So with them and their starting 5, with Dragic and Bosch, that would have been a lethal starting 5. There's not too many other starting 5s you can think of in the league that are better than theirs. You maybe think of Cleveland, Golden State, Atlanta. But other than that, that could have been a formidable pick and roll situation. You talk about Dragic last year and his 3rd-team All-NBA play, and I think one of the coaches said, it was Frank Vogel, I think, said that him and the Channing Frye pick and roll was the toughest to guard in the league. So that's a big loss especially because they had high hopes after acquiring Dragic. So yeah, I mean, I see this Chris Bosh and him being out for the season as a tough, like you said, a tough test for Miami to even make the playoffs. They're at the 7th seed right now, but I see Indiana sneaking in, and then I see their playoff chances more, I guess, probably closer to 45-50%. I just think it's wide open between them and 5 or 6 other teams, and I think they can still contend with without Bosch. Yeah. So yeah, I see Detroit and Indiana, maybe even Boston too. They made a push and acquired Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah,
so.
But Sullinger's out now.
Yeah,
Boston,
that kind of sets them back too. They acquire a player, but then they lose one. Kind of like the same thing as the Heat. But yeah, Brad Stevens always has them playing hard, so I could see the Boston and Indiana sneaking in the 7-8. But yeah, Kurt, what do you think about the Bosch injury and how you see the Heat playoff picture kind of shaping up?
Personally, just with how close things have been with him, I know Hassan Whiteside's kind of been an interesting NBA, just nobody knew where he came from, and he just kind of came on the scene and started tearing it up. But fact of the matter is, they're still 3-7 in their last 10, 8 games below 500, and that's, again, Dwayne Wade is still probably gonna play as often as he did in the first half of the season. So if you can't at least go 500 with those guys, I know they added Dragic, but I don't really know who they can have in the pick and pop. Yeah, like Johnny said with Channing Frye, he's known for his outside shooting, and that's why that is so hard to defend, and he can put the ball on the floor. So, and that's pretty much what Bosch was for, and that would have been a perfect fit. Honestly, that would have been pretty scary, especially when you have a dinosaur and a dragon on the court at the same time. But yeah, I think that their playoff shots are pretty much toast. I'll give them like a 10% chance. People don't give Bosch a lot of credit, but management seems to say that he's very important, and his numbers certainly indicate that as well. But I think this might be more about Detroit, Indiana, and Charlotte playing better than Miami playing worse. I think that just between those three teams, and maybe even Brooklyn, I'm not really sure what's going on there, that Miami's just going to get edged out by, between those four teams, at least one of them's going to, Indiana's 7-3 in their last 10, and if Paul George comes back, like, there's no way that they won't play better than a Miami team. And I just think there's just too many teams that are competing for that spot, and Miami's not going to be able to be consistent enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah. J-Rod, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just quickly, I guess going off that Goran trade, I read that actually the Miami Heat point guard position was the worst statistically of like any position in the NBA. So, I mean, yeah, led by Mario Chalmers and company. So, yeah, I mean, if they play Goran, and I think it'll take some time though for him to get adjusted to this offense and everything. You saw it in the first game he played. I think it was last night. He kind of struggled a little bit figuring out the offense and everything and who he'll play pick and pop with. But I think it's important to note that that's a very big upgrade in terms of what they were getting before with like a 10 PER average between the three stooges they had in there before.
The big three.
So yeah, I mean, it is going to be tough for Miami to make the playoffs, but I think I'm a little higher than you guys. But I guess looking at potential other players that could join contenders even after the trade deadline, I suppose. Recently, Larry Sanders' contract was bought out by the Milwaukee Bucks. And then you also have Ray Allen kind of still sitting out the season, and there's growing rumors that he might not even actually play this year. So Rahul, I guess going off those lines, would you take a chance and maybe sign Larry Sanders, contender, looking for some front court help, or going along with that too? I guess mentioning Ray Allen, do you think he'll join a team this year at all?
I don't really know much about Ray Allen, so I won't say much on him because I can't really follow the story. Like, I thought he was going to announce his team, and then he didn't, and now it looks like he might just not play this season. So I don't know what's going on with him, to be honest. As far as Larry Sanders, my answer is it depends like what team you are. If like you're like the Cavs or like the Clippers, maybe like a team that could use Larry Sanders but wouldn't be dependent on him, and you could sign him to like a small contract, then I'd say go ahead and take a chance. And like if it doesn't work out and you can cut him, then fine, cut your losses. If you sign Larry Sanders to be like a central part of your team, or like play a bigger role than just a role player, then I wouldn't advise signing him. So that's what I'd say. what do you guys think, Kurt? What do you think about Larry Sanders?
I don't have a whole lot to say on Larry. Just the only thing I'd say is you have to have a pretty solid and strong locker room to kind of steer him in the right direction and not be a distraction. So you would have to have, some solid veterans to take control of him. And if you're a team that is on the cusp and thinks he is the piece that could send you over the top, then I think you should take the chance. But if you're already doing pretty well, and it'd be like when Miami added Michael Beasley, they're just praying that they can get anything out of him, but in the end he didn't really do anything. But I guess I don't know. They both have they're kind of similar. Both have their locker room issues. So I guess yeah. But that locker room that Miami had was when you have LeBron and Wade and Bosh in it, like that guy's not going to be a distraction. So for the Cavs, I don't think I would take a chance on him because I think we should try to get Ray Allen if we can. So yeah, and I also don't know exactly what Ray Allen's plans are. He certainly had an awesome career, and there's no reason that he has to come back. But maybe he's just waiting and just wants to come back for the last couple of weeks and then play in the playoffs, which would be a pretty cool power to have. Jared,
Yeah, I guess I feel kind of like the same way. It depends on the team he joins and if their kind of culture and everything. Yeah, I think there's a few contenders out there that could use the front court help. I guess namely the Clippers. But yeah, he kind of carries a lot of baggage with him and all the off-court stuff and everything. And I guess in the first place, he's not really a great offensive player or anything. He kind of just is a good interior defender and everything, and blocks shots pretty well. So I mean, he could add some decent minutes for teams. And then with Ray Allen, yeah, that story just seems a little backwards almost. He kind of said he would announce after the All-Star break, and then he's kind of just waiting it out. I don't know if he can how long he can wait, or if he's not going to play this season, is he just going to retire? I mean, that's the sense that I get. So yeah, I guess moving along to players that are playing and are playing very well, but recently the Brow, he returned from the All-Star break. Beforehand, he was nursing kind of a shoulder injury, and last night he seemed to re-injure it. So I guess Kurt, with this injury and I guess the surge of OKC kind of dominating that 8 seed and making it so the Pelicans are going to have a really tough time even making the playoffs at this point. Do you think that they should just shut down Anthony Davis for the season and make sure that his shoulder isn't destroyed by the end?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly how bad his shoulder is or what seems to be the problem, but I'm going to go off and first say that I think that their chances of making the playoffs with or without him are slightly over 0, but less than 1%. Yeah, mainly just from what you said, that the Thunder are playing very well, and they made some awesome trades to really bolster their roster. So I would say if their season seems to be lost already and his injury is pretty major, that it'll take a long time to heal from, then I'd say he should shut it down. I know that sucks for the fans because I haven't had a chance to watch him in person, but I'm sure that would be a real treat. But Sometimes you got to think long term. And again, I don't know what the extent is, but he seemed like he was in a lot of pain when he had to leave the game. So I think maybe he should just, there's not that many games left that he'd miss. And they're only 2 games back of the 8 seed right now, but um, they're just not playing that well in general, even with him. With his ridiculous numbers, you'd think that team would be have a much better record instead of barely being over 500. So, yeah, I think he should probably just shut it down, and that team's got to figure out some players to add to send them to the next level, because so far their acquisitions haven't really panned out. And you think they had like a Drew Holiday who was an all-star, Eric Gordon. I'm not really sure. That guy's career has been decimated by injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Anderson can't stay healthy either, it seems. He might be out for a while as well. Things just haven't really panned out there, and sitting in the 9 or 10 seed in your conference is one of the worst spots you can be in. So, yeah, I think you should probably shut it down.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I don't think, playing him throughout the rest of the season and jeopardizing his, potential future, and it's just so promising what he has, and he's so young, and he's got to get better every season. So, yeah, I don't think it's worth it just to play him the rest of the season and get the 8 seed and get destroyed by the Golden State in the first round. So, yeah, I think it would be smart for them just to shut him down for the rest of the season. And yeah, just like you said, they got to figure something out in order to surround him with some better players. Otherwise, he's probably gonna leave for a contender in the next few years or so. They got to figure something out in the off season, acquiring some better players to surround him with. So I guess with that, earlier we mentioned the Heat and their big acquisitions, and as well as OKC we mentioned in this playoff picture, and how they really improved their roster as well. So I guess Rahul,
Yeah.
if we talk in terms of the trade deadline, it was really crazy. A lot of players getting exchanged, a lot of picks and everything. So I guess in terms of that, I guess we wrote about to an extent. So maybe just get like your biggest winner and loser from the trade deadline, maybe like a team.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll start with losers, I guess, because start with losers, and the two I have written down are the Nuggets and the 76ers for losers. So the Nuggets traded Aaron Aflalo, yet they kept Wilson Chandler, Fareed, and Ty Lawson, and that I don't know. I don't quite understand that. It seems like they wanted to rebuild but didn't commit to it, and now they're stuck in like that purgatory where you're kind of middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote the 76ers because they traded Michael Carter-Williams and KJ McDaniels for more picks, and I'm not sure about that. Like, I understand that they're a rebuilding team, but usually you trade away kind of older players or more established veterans or expiring contracts or something like that for picks. But giving away your young players just seems to put you back in the spot you were a few years ago. So I don't know about that. As far as winners, I know I was talking to Kurt earlier, and I think we had the same winner, so I'll leave that to him. So Kurt, I'll defer to you on this one.
Oh, thanks, man. I was expecting another theft.
A theft, yeah.
But yeah, actually, just what you said with the 76ers, I thought there's a pretty good point, especially trading the rookie of the year in his second year. Seems pretty unwise. But yeah, for the big winner, Rahul and I both agree that it has to be the Heat. Of course, this is not taking into account that Bosch is out for the season now, because obviously they didn't know that was going to happen when they made the trade. Otherwise, they might have tried to get another big guy. But just when you think about adding an all NBA point guard. Granted, there are a lot of really good point guards. It's a point guard driven league these days. But, when you go from having Mario Chalmers, who realistically he shouldn't be starting for any team that wants to win, and that was only fine because, he had Wade and LeBron as the ball handlers, and he didn't really have to do anything. When you add an All-NBA point guard for 2 first-round draft picks, like, it seems very hard for me to fathom that it was that easy to acquire him, considering we had to spend 2 first-round picks just to get Mozgov. And that's not a knock on Mozgov, but, considering where Mozgov is in his career versus where Dragic is, that just seems a bit absurd. So that's like, I don't know how they pull that off, but that's just ridiculous, and that's a steal. I know he was going to leave, but still seemed like that was like 50 cents on the dollar for his actual value. And I'd say the big loser is actually a team that didn't really do anything, and that would be the Clippers. Obviously, Blake Griffin is having some injury issues, and he's out for a while. And the Clippers they tried to get Kevin Garnett. Obviously, that didn't work out. He's going back to Minnesota. Try to get Kendrick Perkins, going to the Cavs. Try to get Amare. He's going to the Mavericks. And then they also try to get Tayshaun Prince. And they just flopped on all of their big target acquisitions. And that team, they already had problems on the wing. But without Blake, I don't know, things look pretty sketchy there.
Well, to be fair, they did acquire Austin Rivers 2 weeks ago, so
that is true. That was interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like things are not. So they won 4 in a row, which I'm not exactly sure how they managed to pull that off without Blake for some of that, maybe all of that. I'm not sure, but I just feel like they're gonna end up as the 8th seed by the end of this, if Blake's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So didn't really address any of their needs, and I think that has to put them as the biggest loser, considering they thought they'd be contending for a title this year. Johnny, what you got?
Yeah, those are some good points on winners and losers, I guess, from the trade deadline. I look at 2 other teams in the West as my big winners and losers of this trade deadline, and I guess to start, my winner for this trade deadline was the Oklahoma City Thunder and the moves that they made. They acquired Enes Kanter, DJ Augustine, and then 2 white guys, Singler and I forget.
Novak.
Yeah, Steve Novak. Yeah. So yeah, I mean they did lose Reggie Jackson in the process, but the thoughts there were he was not fitting in at all, and he had to be moved. So it was good. It was good that they did move him before this summer, where he would have walked anyway. So, and DJ Augustine's a pretty good player, I think. I don't think it's too much of a drop off, and he can play that backup point guard position for them. So he's a solid acquisition. And then I look at Cantor, and he's a solid young big, and I feel the Jazz. They're I guess another loser I see in terms of what they got in return for Cantor. I thought they could have got a little more. And then props to the Thunder as well. They were looking at possibly acquiring Lopez, but they got Cantor instead, which I feel is a steal in terms of the contract, as well as he's younger and isn't injured half the year. So I look at that as a big plus. And then obviously they lose Perkins. But I see Cantor as a great fit for that team, and I see it continuing to improve their playoff chances going forward. And I see the Thunder, they're officially at the 8th seed now, but with the play of Westbrook and hopefully Durant getting healthy, that they can possibly move into the 5 or 6 seed. I think possibly, and maybe they play like Memphis would be a really tough first matchup, but still, they'll be a nightmare to play for sure. So I look at the other way, and I see the Phoenix Suns as the big loser in this trade deadline. You look at their approach going into it, and they ended up trading both, Goran and Isaiah Thomas, and they didn't really get, I don't think, too much in return for that. They do get Brandon Knight, who is a solid player and who is
Yeah.
playing really well for Milwaukee this year. But they also gave away a pick, the Los Angeles Lakers pick, which is top 5 protected, but that could probably turn into a top 10 pick. And then you look at Brandon Knight, and he's obviously having a really good season this year, but he is a restricted free agent come this summer.
Mm.
So it could turn out that they just pretty much rent him for 2 months, and then he's got to get paid a lot of money, I feel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's really unclear what the Suns' direction now is, I guess. They trade away, I guess, those 2 point guards along with Tyler Ennis and then Plumlee. So they trade basically for 4 players for, I guess they do get the 2 first rounders, which is nice, but then they get just the 1 player in Knight in return. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their plans are for the future. Right now they're stuck in that, like 8-9 spot in the West, which is one of the worst places to be. So I guess they're kind of scratching it and saying they want to start over a little bit. Yeah, it's a mess. It seems like they had like 5 point guards on their roster at one point, which I don't see why you ever have to do that, or why they even drafted. I guess Kurt brought up a good point too, that why you even draft Tyler Ennis when you sign Isaiah Thomas in the offseason, and then you already have Bledsoe and Dragic. So that whole point guard, I mean, it's great that they have 3 great point guards, but that really took away from Goran Dragic, I think, this year. That Isaiah Thomas signing, it was a bargain, but in disguise, I think it meant Goran wouldn't have the ball as much, pretty much, and the ball was out of his hands, 40% less, I think, this year than it was last year. So the whole Suns organization and everything is just not pointing to it's a puzzling moves, I think, they with this trade deadline, to all in all, I guess, for the end of my rant. So
Yeah.
I guess with that, that pretty much, I guess, covers most of the trending news, I guess, from the NBA this past week.
One thing I want to add real quick is,
Yeah.
starting next week, the Cavs have a crazy schedule. They're at Houston, then they play Boston at home, then they're at Toronto, at Atlanta, Phoenix at home, at Dallas, at San Antonio.
Wow.
So that schedule is going to, I think, really show what we're made of that week or that week and a half. So that's going to be an exciting time to watch the Cavs.
Hey, Rahul.
Yeah.
I think you just pulled another theft. I don't know if you guys recall, but one of our first broadcasts, I actually, just to toot my own horn, I did bring up part of the that exact part of the schedule you just talked about, and said that would be like our true test, like when we would find out, because that was when I think we were probably at maybe like 19 and 20 or something like that.
Yeah. Gotcha.
When we said we were going to find out what we were made of. So just
in my defense, when you talk, I try to tune it out. Just kidding.
Sure.
But no, yeah, it's definitely a good point though. So
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of nationally televised games, so thank you TNT and ESPN for that. And
you should
NBA,
try to go. You should go to that Houston game, man.
That'd be a nice birthday present to myself.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sunday, so got the day off.
Yeah, dude, that's a good call. I should definitely look into that.
There you go.
Says there are 531 tickets available from $114.
Mm.
I'm not sure exactly
Those
that.
leads for 120.
Huh. So what do we got coming up on the site?
We don't really know at this point. We gotta probably discuss it. So we'll figure it out and we'll let everybody know. We always have our like previews and stuff like that, so you can look for those. And then we're still planning the week out, but
Yep.
Cool.
yeah. But other than that, anything else, boys? What was that?
I don't even have a shout out planned or anything, which is
Dang, a weekly shout out.
Oh,
sad.
man.
Well, I guess I have one quick one. I guess
Yeah.
the shout out to Timothy Mozgov in the Wizards game. He was plus 42.
Wow.
29 minutes, I think. So
Nice.
that is pretty impressive. So that's about all I got.
Not bad. All right. Well, I guess we will meet up again next week for our next podcast.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well, we will talk to everybody later.